Russia pounded Kyiv with a massive overnight bombardment that killed 4 people and left over 100 people injured. Russia's defense ministry confirmed its use of the Oreshnik missile in the strikes on Ukraine. Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called Russia genuinely deranged after the deadly missile and drone attack on the country. More about this in our next report. Take a look.
Buildings reduced to rubble, people running for their lives, and a skyline filled with smoke. Loud explosions reverberated across Ukraine overnight as Russia launched one of its biggest aerial assaults and used the powerful Oreshnik hypersonic ballistic missile. Multiple rounds of explosions rang in the Ukrainian capital Kyiv as Moscow unleashed one of its largest barrages in the more than 4-year-long war. A residential building located close to the government district shook from the explosions as dozens of people took shelter in an underground metro station in central Kyiv.
This is, of course, horrible. It is horrible what Russia is doing, that it is trying to destroy us, that it gives us no chance at life, but we have no other option. We have to endure all of this.
Emergency responders continue to race against time to save Kyiv residents, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is visiting the locations hit overnight. Zelensky has slammed Russian President Vladimir Putin for unleashing the Oreshnik hypersonic missile in the deadly strikes. Ukraine's Air Force says the overnight Russian barrage involved 600 drones and 90 missiles. The Russian army confirmed it had launched the Oreshnik at Ukraine for just the 3rd time in the war. Russia's Oreshnik is a high-speed, maneuverable missile designed to overwhelm air defenses. What makes the missile stand out is its multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, or MIRVs. This means the missile carries multiple warheads, and each of them can hit a different target. Daytime scenes across Kyiv show rescue workers extinguishing fires and sifting through the debris of heavily damaged houses, shopping centers, museums, theaters, schools, and universities. Putin had earlier threatened retaliation for Ukrainian drone strikes in Russian-occupied territory that Moscow says hit a vocational school and killed at least 18 people, mostly students. However, European leaders reacted to the massive strike by saying the salvo showed Russia's desperation. Moscow has also hit Ukraine almost daily with barrages of missiles and drones, impacting its energy infrastructure. Meanwhile, Kyiv has recently expanded its drone capabilities and stepped up strikes across Russian territories, including residential areas and oil export infrastructure. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
And to discuss more, joining us live from Washington, D.C. is John Erat. He's a Senior Policy Director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation and a former member of the U.S. delegation to NATO. Mr. Erat, thank you so much for joining us in the broadcast. Now, Russia says that this was retaliation for Ukrainian strikes, but the use of Oreshnik, it does feel larger than battlefield retaliation here. And given that Russia keeps emphasizing that the Oreshnik is almost impossible to intercept, and also this is the 3rd time that they have used it in the conflict, what do you think is the larger message that Moscow is sending with this, and do you think it's directed squarely at Kyiv or also perhaps at Europe and NATO?
There are 2 things to keep in mind with the use of the Oreshnik missile. The first is that it is a high-value, low-density asset. That means Russia doesn't have very many of them. So every time it uses one, it is sending a message. And the message is twofold. The first is that it wants to emphasize that the missile is not interceptable. This is somewhat true. If you want the missile to be accurate, you have to slow it down. So it becomes interceptable if you want to hit what you're aiming at. If you're just aiming at a city, using it as a weapon of terror, then you can fly it at its full hypersonic capabilities. So it's the first message that Russia is sending is that it's terror. The second is that the Oreshnik is nuclear capable. Russia doesn't want Kiev or its supporters to forget this, that always in the back pocket are nuclear weapons, and that this is a applied nuclear threat. So that's the message that Russia is sending. The reason Russia is sending it at this time is because things are looking very desperate for Moscow. It received a reprieve with the increase in oil prices due to the Iran war. This has enabled Russia to keep going for a short period of time. That period is running out. Russia is losing more ground on the front lines than it is gaining, and Kiev is having more and more success with strikes deeper and deeper into Russian territory. So things are looking very bad for Russia right now. This is clearly an act of desperation, and unfortunately it comes at the cost of Ukrainian lives.
Right, and we have heard strong condemnation from European leaders after these strikes. But beyond statements, is Europe actually prepared for a longer and more dangerous phase of this war? Because every time Russia deploys a more advanced systems without facing, a dramatically stronger Western response, it does risk expanding the escalation envelope here.
There is important Western support, particularly intelligence and targeting information, that is going from both Europe and the United States to Ukraine at this time. But the increase in capabilities, the ability to strike deeper and deeper into Russia, that is homegrown in Ukraine. So Ukraine is in effect fighting and winning this war without very much help from the West, without very much help from the outside. More and more this is the case, and that is making this war more difficult for Russia to win all the time.
Right, we hear you, Mr. Irath, and those are, of course, some very valid points there. But, of course, we'll have to wait and see how this goes from here. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your perspective with us.
You're very welcome.